Hello everybody, Dr. Nomad here. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about stims in Tarkov. They're an important part of the game and situationally can be used to help you win fights, survive fights, get out with a significant amount of loot, or if your style is more quick looting and scooting, it can help you with that too. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how these stims work, talk about some of the side effects that come along with them, as well as some combinations that seem to work very, very well. At the end, I'll provide my own tier list, which I think makes a lot of sense based on prices on the flea market, as well as what I and other players tend to use most typically. Now, this may vary a little bit according to your play style, but ultimately, it's just sort of a general guidelines to how these stims work. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We'll start off with our F tier stims. First up, the Aldabos Cocktail Injector. Now, this stim has a number of potential benefits. When I say potential, I mean this is purely RNG based. You have a 25% chance of all of the following: increased strength, endurance, intellect, attention, stress resistance, charisma, all by 10 levels, max stamina by 20, health regen and stamina recovery by +1, and a very minimal increase in your weight limit by plus 0.01 kilograms. The downsides of this stim are really what throw it solidly in the F tier. You have a chance of having increased damage taken by 20%, except in the head. Not great. It makes you very, very squishy. The hand tremor, which you could potentially get for 600 seconds, is not a big deal. And really, the hydration recovery and energy recovery of -1 isn't the worst thing in the world. But it would be easier to use stims that you get a for sure benefit with similar side effects. But the one I really want to highlight for the Aldabos 2 is right down here, our health regeneration side effect. You have a 25% chance of decreasing your health regeneration by 600. What that means is you are really rolling the dice with this stim. You get a 1 in 4 chance that every time you pop it, you're going to keel over dead. It's not worth it, folks. Don't use it, don't think about it, sell it, turn it in for tasks, whatever you're going to do, but it is not the move. Bringing up another space in our low tier here is the SJ9 Tier Group Labs Combat Stimulant Injector. This initially came out a couple of wipes ago. The idea was that it decreases your body temperature by 7 degrees Celsius, which is pretty substantial. Hopefully, at least we were all hoping when it first came out, that it was going to make you a lot harder to see on the thermal in the same way that the cultist might be. Unfortunately, that's not the case. There's a nice little video on the official wiki that shows what happens on a thermal camera when you take this stim. But essentially, the big red blob that you are on the FLIR stim becomes a big white blob. Even at long distances, it really doesn't do what it's intended to do. And then on top of it, you get a decrease in your metabolism by 20 and your health regen by 0.1, requiring you to constantly heal or pop another stim to be able to heal. You also get hand tremor and pain, which are manageable side effects, but you're really giving yourself side effects from a stim with no apparent benefit, which is kind of the problem with this one. Next up, its counterpart, the SJ12 Combat Stimulant Injector. Same idea, we're decreasing our body temperature by -4 degrees Celsius, but unlike its counterpart, you get an increase in your energy recovery and hydration recovery by 0.1, which is kind of nice, similar to what you get from the Golden Star in terms of energy recovery. Now, the problem is the body temperature does rebound. You go up 6 degrees Celsius afterwards, which means you'll go from a red blob to a white blob to a red blob that lights up like a Christmas tree. There are actually some very decent benefits to it, but I wouldn't use this as intended. This would be much better situationally used in a daytime raid where you need energy and hydration recovery for a longer period of time than you might get from a golden star or some other stim. You do get the added bonus of your perception going up by 30 levels, but it doesn't make this stim really worth it in the long run, and I wouldn't suggest this being a everyday use. Now our last one in the F tier is the XTG Antidote Injector. This is not in the F tier because it's a bad stim. The antidote only works against the poison given to you by cultists. That's the only way to get the poison in the game. So this stim is very niche. There are only very specific situations in which you would use it, and if we're being real, if a cultist runs up behind you and stabs you, most people are going to turn around and shoot it and either die in the attempt or in the fight afterwards with the cultist. Now, it does give you a little bit of a chance to survive if you decide not to fight them, but it decreases your health skill by 5 levels, which makes you a little squishier. It's just there's so much limited use to this stim that I really wouldn't go out of my way. Next up, our D tier. We're going to go with the morphine, and this may be controversial. It's an easy to get a hold of stim as a positive. It does remove pain for a decent amount of time, removes concussion. The reason it's in the D tier is because you get a decrease in your energy by 10, you get a decrease in your hydration by 15, and especially if you are in a middle early wipe phase, this is going to be pretty substantial, forcing you to be distracted by the fact that you're going to need food and water, and may change the flow and gameplay of your raid. Also, there are other stims that are just so much better at providing pain relief and relief from concussions without the kind of side effects that you're getting here from the morphine. Our other D tier stim is the PNB. The PNB removes concussion for a short period of time, 40 seconds. You get a health regen of 3 for 40 seconds. Your strength goes up by 20 for 40 seconds, but you get a decrease in your health and vitality skills by 20 for 180 seconds. So you're basically trading 40 seconds of benefit for being squishy for 3 minutes afterwards. The tremor is pretty negligible in terms of how you're comparing it to the other side effects. I've placed it in the D tier because there are some useful things that you get out of it, but it's essentially very, very short acting, and it makes you very squishy for a longer period of time than you get the benefits. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Next up, our C tier. Coming in at number 1 on our C tier is the Meldonin Injector. Now, this is one of the saddest things about stims in Tarkov. This stim used to, in addition to these benefits of strength up 10 levels, endurance up 20, stamina recovery up 0.5, also gave you a damage reduction bonus except to the head. And this stim lasts for 900 seconds, which is a very significant amount of time. It made it really easy to do what you needed to do, especially if you were going into the raid heavy already, or you were planning on doing a lot of looting and just scooting out on your own super heavy. The problem with this stim is that now you don't have the damage reduction, which is what dropped it into the C tier in the first place. Plus, the hydration recovery and energy recovery of minus 0.1 over 900 seconds is incredibly substantial, forcing you to make sure that you are drinking food and water almost constantly throughout the raid, which can be annoying and provides a little bit of difficulty depending on what map you are, as you'll have to do a lot more searching for food or pray to the RNG gods to give you a milk or an aquamari or something of that nature. Next up, the Adrenal Injector. The Adrenal Injector has some decent benefits. You get 10 levels to your endurance, 10 to your strength, 10 to your recoil control skill, but you do get a minus 10 for your stress resistance, which makes you squishier. Now they try and maybe compensate for that a little bit by 4-level increase to your health regen, but it's only for 15 seconds. And then you have hydration recovery and energy recovery down 0.8 and 1 respectively. So essentially what you're getting here is 60 seconds of benefit and very minimal health regeneration for then being very hungry and being squishy for 60 more seconds. It's usable situationally. If you're in a fight and it's a 1v1, it might be a decent use if you have one on hand. I wouldn't go out of my way to bring it with me. And it's really in this tier because of how short acting it is. You can get a lot better pain effect, health regen, stress resistance from other stims with less side effects, longer duration. It just doesn't hold up to the rest of the pack. Now let's talk about the 3BTG. As I was reviewing the Tarkov stims and the changes that have been made, this one really stuck out to me as a dark horse stim. You get 30 levels to your attention and perception for 240 seconds, which is pretty cool. In addition, you get plus 10 to your strength and a stamina recovery of plus 1. So in terms of side effects, you get hand tremor and a decrease in your energy recovery by 0.2, which does make you hungry. You'll have to pay attention to your food, but you get a longer duration of the attention and perception, which are helpful for looting, also for hearing people coming from farther away, gunshots, things like that. Plus your strength and stamina go up. It's a very useful stim. I actually carry one in my injectors case just in case I need something like that for a short period of time and don't want to use something like a mule or an Abdalbos 2, because we all know Abdalbos 1 is bad. L1 stim, the norepinephrine injector, coming up next. No, the norepinephrine injector increases your endurance by 10, strength by 20, and max stamina by 30 for 2 minutes, with a follow-up decreased hydration recovery and energy recovery by 0.4. So you get pretty good benefits for about 2 minutes, and then you get really, really hungry and really, really thirsty. It's an okay stim. It's very helpful for getting to places where you might not normally get. Say you're trying to jump up somewhere that requires you to have max strength. It could be useful. Our follow-up is the SJ1 stimulant injector. This is also controversial, I feel. The endurance and strength and stress-resistant benefits are solid, but you get them for 3 minutes, followed by the energy and hydration recovery. I don't really see this stim being used much other than trying to get out and being very heavy. And the reason that it's in the C tier or the B tier is the fact that there are other stims that can do what it does. The last stim in our B tier is the AHF1 stimulant injector. You get a plus 5 to your health skill, which is not bad. Also stops and prevents bleeding for 60 seconds, which is nice. You can stop multiple bleeds. If you try and run away, you won't pop a new one. It does make you kind of thirsty afterwards. You get a decrease in your hydration recovery by 0.3. All in all, it's a pretty decent stim. It's very useful. Now let's start getting into our A tier stims. The P22. I see this stim used very infrequently, but I think that this is actually a good stim when situationally used and used correctly. You get a plus 30 to your stress resistance and health, as well as your vitality for 60 seconds. The nice thing about this is that this makes you harder to kill. It's for a fairly short period of time, but this stim is specifically for combat. I think that's what brings this into the A tier. It's really the only one of its kind on this list. In terms of side effects, you do get decreased stamina recovery and endurance. But to be honest, if you're popping this stim, you're following the age-old Tarkov adage, swing or get swung. There is no running away with this bad boy. Next is the Zagustin, the hemostatic drug injector. It stops light bleeds and heavy bleeds for 180 seconds. It increases your vitality skill by 20 levels, which is pretty substantial. You also end up getting a decrease of your metabolism by 5. It does make you pretty hungry, but it stops and prevents bleeding for 180 seconds, so you can run, do whatever you need to do, and you won't get rebleeds. The other side effects are a hand tremor, which aren't that big of a deal, as well as a hydration recovery of 1.4. Get a little hungry, get a little thirsty, but if you're needing this stim, you're not worrying about your food and your water in the moment. Next on our list is the El Davos 2 cocktail injector. This is a newer stim to Tarkov relative to some of the rest of them. I think that this belongs in the A tier because you get 1800 seconds of increased strength, endurance, attention, and perception by 20 levels. Your weight limit goes up by 45%, which is very, very substantial. Although it does decrease your max stamina by 20 levels, and your stamina regeneration and health regeneration go down. The reason that I think this is an A tier and not an S tier stim is because of the health regeneration effects. A health regeneration decrease of -1 is pretty high. You'll notice that if you pop the stim, your health goes down pretty quickly, so you almost always have to pop another stim in order to keep your health from going down, or to stop from running all over the place, stopping every 2 seconds to make sure that your head or your chest isn't going to black out. It's very, very useful when paired with Propital. I think it's one of the best stim combinations in the game. These two bad boys together make it really easy to get where you need to go while carrying a lot of gear. It's definitely worth it, but the side effects make it a risk. A significant benefit, but a risk none the same. Our last A tier stim is the Tramadol. The Tramadol gives you 180 seconds of no pain or concussion. It increases a number of skills by 10 levels: your endurance, strength, attention, stress resistance, your max stamina. You get a stamina recovery of +3. The drawback here is that you lose energy and hydration at a rate of -0.5, which is pretty significant. You get hungry pretty quickly. This isn't really I'm going to use it at the beginning of the raid and run around unless you happen to be carrying food on you. But it's a great stim. It allows you to get to places much more quickly, especially if you're carrying gear. You can run without stopping as frequently. And if paired with the SJ6, it's admittedly better counterpart. You have infinite stamina, essentially. Now, let's finish with our S tier stims, starting with the Perfitorin, otherwise known as the Blue Blood Stimulant Injector. The Blue Blood, I think, is going to be a really, really, really good stim at some point. Right now, the toxication and radiation exposure don't really hold up. There's nothing in the game that causes those. It does have an antidote feature to it, which makes it already a better counterpart to the XTG, as well as stopping and preventing bleeding for 60 seconds. It also increases your metabolism by 5, as well as your health regeneration by 1.5 for 60 seconds. So really what you're getting is all the benefits of the adrenaline, the XTG, and the AHF1 kind of rolled up into one. It does decrease your health skill by 15 for 60 seconds, and you lose energy recovery at 1.1. So you will get pretty hungry. I think that this belongs in the S tier, partially because you get a combination effect of multiple other stims, but there's also a lot of potential for how this can be used later as Tarkov continues to expand and they add new features. Next up, the ETG. The ETG is an oldie but a goodie. It's been around for a long time. It is the friend of Chads everywhere. It removes concussion. Your health regeneration goes up by 6.5 levels for 60 seconds, as does your energy recovery. Your metabolism immunity go up by 20 levels. If you're in the middle of a fight and you need to heal quickly, this is your ticket. The downsides are it does decrease your energy recovery substantially. It goes down by -3, so it's definitely advised to make sure that you have food available, or you know where you're going to get food after you use this stim, because you will get very hungry very fast. You also get a decrease in your endurance and health skills by 5 levels. I personally haven't noticed that this has made a huge difference for me, but it's worth mentioning. It's a great stim. Highly recommend that everybody has one on hand, just in case. Next, the SJ6. Another Tarkov oldie but goodie. It has the benefits of giving you a max stamina of plus 30 levels for 240 seconds, in addition to stamina recovery for 2 levels, 240 seconds. It's a great stim. Your only side effects are a tremor and a tunnel effect, which are totally worth it. You have no other downsides, and especially if you pair this with something like a Tramadol injector, or even one of the weight increasing ones like the Abdalbos 2 or the Mule. This allows you to move a lot of loot very quickly out of a raid. I cannot recommend this stim more. And we're down to our top 3. The Mule Stim. The Mule Stim is a classic. It increases your weight limit by 50% for 900 seconds. And it does decrease your health regeneration by -0.1. It's not super substantial. You can easily stop and heal periodically if you have to. You can use a Propofol to combat this. The reason I put this above the Abdalbos 2 is because it allows you to move where you have to go without stopping super frequently to heal, because the decrease in your health regeneration is less substantial. The other reason that I moved this up on my list of Tarkov stims is because this stim used to give you an increased amount of damage to everywhere but your head. It no longer does that, therefore making its side effects basically null and allowing you to move a significant amount of weight around. Everybody should have one of these. And everybody else thinks so too, because the prices on the flea market are always expensive. Our last 2 stims are the Propofol, the regenerative stimulant injector provided by the Terror Group lab people. It removes pain and concussion for 240 seconds. You get an increase in your metabolism, health, and vitality skills by 20 levels for 300 seconds, and a +1 to your health regeneration for 300 seconds. So you gain health, makes you a little harder to kill, and the only side effects are a tremor and a tunnel effect. So much like the SJ6, the side effects for the benefit is essentially 0. You can use this stim as many times as you want. It's not going to cause any effects other than that annoying little haziness at the side of your screen. This is a must-have for every Tarkov player. This one is a winner. And we'll end our review on the new stim, the 2A2 BTG stimulant injector. The 2A2 I have not had a chance to personally interact with, but looking at the side effect profile versus the potential benefits of this stim, I think this is going to be a great stim. You get a +10 to your attention, makes looting a little easier, a little faster. Your perception goes up by 10 levels, which allows you to pick up things from farther away. It allows you to hear other PMCs or scavs from farther away. And on top of it, you get a weight limit increase of 15%. The reason that I put this in the S tier is because this is the ultimate rat stim. You can hear people coming from farther away. You have an increased weight limit for grabbing people's stuff and scooting away with it, and your only downside is a decrease in hydration recovery. And a decrease in hydration recovery at the end of the day is definitely not as big of a deal as a decrease in energy recovery, because you can still walk around and heal or combat the decrease in your health over time with another stim, so you don't have to go look for food. You could, but you don't have to. And that's what I think sets this stim apart from all of the other ones. It's very similar to the Blue Blood, and it's kind of a class all of its own. and therefore I think it deserves its spot on that list. Now, I did say that we'll make a little bit of doctor commentary on the stims and whether or not they're comparable to real life. The mule stim and the Aldabos 2, not really. There's not really anything that increases your weight carrying capacity. We do have anticoagulants like the AHF1 and the Zagustin. We don't use them quite in the way that Tarkov would have us do them, but possible. The SJ9 and the SJ12, as far as I know, there's nothing in medicine that we would use in that way to decrease somebody's body temperature. It's a cool concept, although poorly executed in Tarkov and really not executed in real life. The Meldonin kind of falls in the same category. There's not really a whole lot here that we can do. This is just a lot of cardio skill for strength and endurance. Just run a lot. That's how you get that. The 3 BTG, attention, perception, and strength. This is crack. Straight up, this is crack. Crackhead strength is a stereotype for a reason, and if you've ever met somebody that uses a lot of crack cocaine, you would understand why I might make that comparison. The P22, stress resistance, health, and vitality. This is PCP. People on PCP do some crazy stuff. They're strong. They don't seem to be fazed by anything. These are the kinds of people that are throwing police dogs and breaking handcuffs with their bare hands. Of course, there are some side effects to that in real life too. Wouldn't recommend. The L1, honestly, kind of similar to BTG. It's probably crack, as is the SJ1, also crack. Antidotes we have all kinds of in medicine. Spiders, snakes, scorpions. This exists. This is something that is not super commonly used, but definitely is used. So it is cool to see stuff like that used in real life. The Aldobosu, this is any drug mixed with fentanyl. There's a pretty good chance that you keel over if you use it. That's enough for me. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Morphine exists in real life. We use it all the time in the hospital. It's really good for pain control when used responsibly and used correctly. Obviously, do not go out in the street and buy it. It's your friendly neighborhood doctor telling you not to. But realistically, it is a quality medicine and has a lot of utility in the medical world. The Perpetorin, not really anything in real life that parallels this. Neither is the SJ6 unless we're also going to compare this to crack. The PNB, not really. Maybe PCP as well. Nothing for the Triminol. This is Adderall. Attention and perception go up. I'll take it. Well, I'll give you the Adderall comparison. Now these last three, ETG, no way, doesn't exist in real life as far as I'm aware. That would take an act of God. But the adrenaline and the Propofol do have a couple real life comparisons. Adrenaline exists in real life. In real life, this is what would be considered to be an EpiPen. We use that mostly in things like allergic reactions. I'm sure everybody's familiar. That exists. The Propofol. This is the one that's close but not quite. There is a medicine that we occasionally use called Propofol. We use it to help remove pain. Typically it's used when people have had a trauma or require a intubation in a breathing tube so that the ventilator can help them breathe until they're able to do so on their own. It's a good medicine, not like Propofol in the game, but it sounds similar enough that I had to throw it in. So that's our stims. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked this video and you found it informative, please like and subscribe. I like talking about medical things and talking about Tarkov, so I hope you enjoyed it.